I don't know if you can hear my cat. Meow. 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 My cat is looking at me, and she wants to jump up on my lap. But she cannot, because I'm working. Oh, I know, you're so sad. No, you gotta go. You gotta go. That's not the correct direction. Go the other way. She says meow. Oh, that's very thoughtful that you would be playing a 10-year-old game at this point? Or that I am more important than that? I mean, I'm playing 35-year-old games, so I don't have any room to talk. I'd be playing the Final Fantasy VII Remake if I weren't here. Actually, no, I'd probably still be in bed. If we're gonna be totally honest. We're gonna get started shortly. If you haven't done so already, please go to Canvas, or at least have the Canvas page open. I'm going to show you how to navigate there and what you need to do. All of this is described in the documentation, but for some people it helps a lot to just see it in action, so I'm going to show you how you access all these forms. We'll get started in just a minute. Alright, so hopefully when I push this button, it will show you... That's the wrong one. There you go, Canvas. Alright, so here's our Canvas page. So I'm going to hit home here. Not hit on home, it's a web page. This is the OLA and OLB webpage. OLC looks very slightly different. Literally, it's just the word OLC is right here instead. But all the functionality is the same. So your Canvas page will have access to all of these different tabs that you've been using so far. Quick note, if you click on the Modules tab, and you see absolutely nothing except for these two first things up here, YouTube lectures and general course info, that's because you haven't finished the orientation activity. Make sure that you do that, or else this entire lecture is not going to be helpful to you until you do that. Okay? I do know that some people haven't finished the orientation activity, because I can see who's done it. Alright. Assuming that you have done that, you're going to scroll all the way down, past all the lectures, to this section right here. You can see all this stuff down here. Haha, you don't normally get to see this stuff. That's because it's not published, so ignore anything down there. Right here, this first entry, this is basically just how to do what we're going to do today. Because you're going to be doing your lab worksheet, and you're going to need to turn it in. And this form will describe how to do that. What we're going to do, first of all, is click on this lab worksheet number 1, which will open in a new tab. I've already done that. That's going to bring up this page. What I recommend personally is that you click here, and you download this as a PDF so that you don't have to browse it in Canvas. Also, that way it will fill the entire screen. I can't do that because if I click this, I don't know what will happen to my window capture. And it might just turn blank, and then I'll waste some time. So I'm going to assume that you have this document handy, and that you can read through it. But the gist of this is that if this were an actual laboratory assignment, that you were to come into the lab, you would do the things shown here. So I've actually given you more or less a procedure and a discussion of what the stuff is and what you would be asked to do, along with some data tables that I have handwritten numbers into, simulated handwritten. I'm using the comic font for somebody writing numbers in their notebook. What all of this is going to mean in terms of like what you need to do is the following, and that's going to be on page 2, which I'm going to show you in just a second. So your first order of business is to read over this documentation more or less in its entirety, because all of the information is important, but not all of it is going to be super relevant to you right now, because since the first part is all about glassware, yeah, we're going to be working with a lot of glassware in this class because, you know, quarantine. So you're never going to use a beaker or a burette or anything like that in this specific class that you're taking right now. However, you still need to be able to identify what they are and how they're used and how their measurement scale works. Okay? So once you have done that, the next thing to do is to go back to the modules and then click on the thing that says Chem 161 OLABC, Google Sheet number 1. The cup in your glass may be glassware. It might be ceramic. I don't know. When you click on Google Sheet number 1, this will happen, and you'll get to a worksheet here, and I can see lots of you are already here. The first thing that you want to do is you want to click on this up here so that you aren't constrained to this little tiny window, and I've already done that here. You're going to see a screen that looks like this, and I don't know if you can see the tabs at the bottom here. Hold on, let's see. Because I can barely see this window there. There we go, okay. All right. This worksheet is going to be what you are going to enter all of your information into in order to submit your assignment. First things first, on the screen you're going to see things that are light blue, like these fields right here that I'm clicking on. Those fields you can type stuff into. Well, you could if I hadn't set it to editing mode. So for example, if I type my name in there, it will record that. Some boxes have formulas. For example, I have typed my name right here. If you go to page 2, my name is still there. If you go to page 3, my name is still there. And I have told you these cells will autofill, so you don't have to put your name on every page because I've already done those formulas for you. All right. Any boxes that are light blue and have bold borders, I am going to expect to have some sort of input from you when you submit the assignment. Okay, so these are the boxes that I'm going to grade. If you decide that you want to go right over here, oops, trying to click the bar over here. Tee-hee, here's my answer. If you go put your answer over there, guess what's going to happen when I grade it? I'm not going to know it's over there because it's off the screen and it's not in the boxes that I delineated, right? So don't put things outside of the boundaries that you want me to score. I mean, it's a giant worksheet, so you can do whatever you want to in cell Q974. Though I reserve the right to hold you accountable for any secret messages you put in your lab worksheet, which may be punitive in case it requires me to do so. I have had people write, like, derogatory things in their lab reports and describe them to me, and I'm like, that's not okay. Like, don't do that. What else do we got here? There's a gray column in here. It says do not write in this column. This entire column, please do not enter anything into in any way, shape, or form. The reason for this is because this is the score column that I'm going to use. If I don't program this before I give you the worksheet, obviously, like, that's going to be a real pain for me to grade it. So what this does is, if you do a problem to my satisfaction, I give you a point for it. And then you'll see that your score changes. Maybe you did really well, and I'll give you all the points for it. Wow, you got 1,000,000 points on the first lab. Good job. Maybe I'll give you negative points. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why people would do that. I had somebody call me an asshole more than that. I don't want to say the first word he called me in a lab report because I marked him wrong on something. I don't know. Some people are just like that. So, yeah, don't do that. Yeah, I'll give you 1,000,000 points extra credit. The final is now out of 1,000,000,000 points. I'm sure everyone's seen that meme. But anyway, this column is specifically for that purpose, so please don't write in it. Please don't erase things in there. As you can see, like, I wrote a big formula up here to make all these things sum together across different pages. So, like, even over here, This will change your score on page 1. So I can just go back and check your grade at the end, and then I can input it into Canvas when I'm done. If you are enrolled in OLA or OLB, you will access that page on Canvas just by default. So when you sign into Canvas and you click on 161, it will just put you on the right page. And, oh, I see what you mean. Okay. So how do you figure out what to put in this space? If you go to your schedule in your My EVCC, click on Unofficial Schedule, it will tell you what section you are enrolled in. As long as you get that close, so if you wrote OLA and you were accidentally OLB, I will put your paper in the correct folder when I grade it. Just don't mistakenly put OLC if you're in OLA or OLB, because I might be like, huh, where'd you go? I don't know. That is just to try and help me, because the gradebook is delineated by what section you enrolled in. That said, on Canvas, everybody in OLA and OLB is grouped together, and if you're in OLC, you're in a separate section, because that's how it was originally created, and e-learning isn't able to make me combine it into a triple. There's various reasons for that. All right, so now that you have all this information handy, you could go ahead and start writing into it, but I'm sure that a lot of you are finding that, like, hey, it's an edit mode. You're not allowed to write in it. So here's what you have to do that. First thing you got to do is you got to make your own copy. That requires you to be signed in. So over here, if you are up in the top corner and you have your Google account logged in, you should see either a little picture if you've uploaded one or an initial or something like that. If you don't have that, sign into some sort of Google account before you continue, because it's going to ask you to do it anyway. Generally speaking, your student email at evcc.edu is a Google account. That works perfectly fine. You may also use any Google account that you have access to. I did not restrict this to anybody. The link is open. Everybody who has the link can access this. They can download it, but they can't write in this document. What you have to do in order to be able to write in it is first you got to go to File. You got to click on Make a Copy. And when you do that, it's going to ask you this window right here. I want to copy this document. What do you want to call the document? You could just call it the default thing. You do not need to check any of these options. You may wish to change which folder it's saved to. You just save it to your drive, and that's fine. And then you hit OK. It will open a new window, and it should be the copy. And you'll see that everybody has gone away because this is my private copy that I have made. This copy is editable, and you may do whatever you want to it. So you could type in chemistry is weird. I am in section Q, and this is the answer to question 1. So now you should be able to edit this. And then you'll fill out all of the stuff. Make sure that when you go down to the bottom, there are tabs that separate out the different sections that have different things that you need to do. For anything that is a formula question, you're free to do the math on your own, or you may make a formula. So if you want to just start doing mathematical functions because you know how Excel works, and you want to do that, that's totally fine. I'm just choosing random numbers to combine together here for an example. Something to note, if you type in a number that has a bunch of sig figs that are all... Oops, my number lock is off. Hold on. If you type in a number that has a bunch of zeros that are sig figs, but you hit enter, this is what happens. The way to fix that is to highlight the cell that you want to change, or maybe highlight all of the cells that you want to change, and then go up to where it says Format. You want to highlight Number, and then you want to choose down here where it says More Formats. And this is unfortunately where Canvas, or not Canvas, but Google Sheets and Excel are a little bit obnoxious. Choose a custom number format. And the format you want to do is you want to type in a pound symbol, a comma, and then as many number or pound symbols as you want for the number of decimal places that you want to have. And then you want to make the other side look the same. It should look like the sample. Chrome and Google Office, or not Google Office, but Google Sheets don't know what sig figs are, so you have to control the number of sig figs that you want it to show based on this. And I actually don't know if these number symbols do anything. I'm just trying to match the template here. So, in fact, it may just require you to do this. Anyway, let's suppose I wanted 4 decimal points. When I hit apply, all those numbers will now have 4 decimal points. There is something similar in Excel, but I assume that people may not have Excel handy on their computers that they're working at because they aren't on campus. So this is a free option that is available online. Okay. Anyway, when you are done with all of this stuff and have filled out all of the questions, I might be able to fix that, but let me see. Is that better? The problem is I can't make it big and also all of it. Can we use the 2 buttons underneath the data tab? Yeah, you totally can, and I didn't know that those were a thing. Oh, yeah, if you weren't streaming me in 1080p, go ahead and do that, just because it will make the text clear. You can actually read it. But yeah, I didn't actually know that there was an increase in That's going to save me a lot of time. All right, cool. Yeah, so these buttons do the same thing. I was looking for that functionality for like 20 minutes, and this was the closest I found, which was the data sheet. What else do we have here? Okay, let's assume that you have filled in all of the information. Oh, by the way, when you are typing text into these boxes, so answer, 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 I've sort of constrained you to the size of this box. If you do more than this, let me see if I can just copy and paste that over and over. There we go. If you do more than this, what's going to end up happening is when you hit enter, your answer's going to get cut off. There is an option to fix this. In fact, I thought I programmed most of these. Looks like it didn't retain that. If your answer gets scrolled off the side, this button up here that says text wrapping, click the middle one, and there you go. That way your whole answer will display. Don't write more than 3 lines of text, which is actually a lot of text for any answer, because the answers are not meant to be that much in detail. I do want you to justify your answers, though. So, like, for example, if I tell you to determine this number, so, like, determine the sugar content in Pepsi and Coke, tell me a little bit about how you did that. And so, like, what did you do in the linear fit equation to do that? That'll make sense once you read the lab. Maybe I just didn't... Oh, no, I don't think it retained that... Oh, it did retain that formatting. Those last few pages just weren't formatted. So hold on just a second. So if you've already copied this document, this change won't be made for you, but that's okay. You can do that on your own. That's fine. All right. So back to what I was talking about. Let's say you're done. Once you have finished the assignment with everything that is filled in here, you're going to go up to File, and you're going to click Download, and you're going to click this. Very specifically, download Microsoft Excel XLSX, okay? Don't choose any other format, because I can't read them, okay? I don't have OpenOffice. If you do a PDF, I can't enter stuff into it, because I don't have a PDF reader. And for the love of Thor, don't do it with a web page. You're going to download Microsoft Excel, so you click this, and it's going to ask you to save it somewhere. You can't actually see that window, which is fine. I'm going to just save it to this test folder that I have on the desktop for student stuff. All right, so I have saved the worksheet. It is now a file on my computer. Here's what you do to turn it in. You're going to go back to Canvas. And in Canvas, you're going to see this new tab. This is Assignments. Before I do that, though, I have to pretend I'm a student. So hold on. All right, I am now a student. All right, so you're going to go to Assignments, and you're going to see something that looks like this. Laboratory Worksheet number 1. If you click on that, it will say, please upload your XLSX file for Laboratory Worksheet number 1 here. You click on Submit Assignment. A little screen will appear down at the bottom, right there, which I can make bigger now because people can see it. It will say, choose a file. Again, something will pop up on your screen, but you won't be able to see that because it doesn't capture that window. I gotta find that folder that I have. So let's see here. What did I call it? Oh, copy of Chem 161. Okay, there we go. So when I hit open, it will put that file in there. You click submit, and it will upload it. That might take a second because Canvas is really slow. And if you see this on the side here, where it says submitted, then you are all set. You've submitted the assignment. When is this due? The due date will be Thursday next week. Okay? In fact, what I'm going to do is on the assignments page right now, what I'm going to do is... Oh, I can't edit the assignment because I'm a student. Hold on. So, reset student. Leave student view. Oops, I didn't actually take that command. Alright, let me... You get to see some Canvas behind the scenes here. Alright, so... Oh no, there's a midterm! That's actually an old midterm. That's not going to be useful. Alright, so edit. Alright, so the due date is... right here. Oh, it scrolled off the screen. Hold on. Let's see if that actually shows up. There you go. So the due date will be right here, April 30th. And the due time is 11:59 p.m. Okay, so you got to turn it in sometime on Thursday. It's got to be uploaded. If you're a little bit late, that's okay. So, like, if you turned it in at 3 a.m. on May 1st, yeah, I'm not going to really care. If you turn it in more than a day late, I will deduct points. Generally speaking, I have a 50% late policy. So if you turn it in late, the most you get is half credit. Obviously, it's a quarantine pandemic awfulness. I'm going to be pretty lenient on that, but don't press your luck, okay? If you absolutely can't get something in on time and you just need more time, remember there is an NQA coupon available on your syllabus. Send me an email and say, I just need to NQA. Can I make this due next week instead? And I'll say yeah. Okay. I am going to say 11:59 because that just lets me tell you you can turn it in any time that day you want. Obviously, you don't need to turn it in at 11:59. You just need to turn it in by that time. Okay. So I should be able to do... Okay, so it's... Oh, that was the available from time. So hold on, I want it to be due at that time. There we go. You should be able to find the worksheet in the modules tab. It should be down after all of the slides. You'll see a section that says laboratory worksheets, just like this. I'm going to try and make this... That's not what I meant to do. Try and make this bigger again here. You guys don't need to see all of my folders because people regularly make fun of me for having 75,000 folders and tabs on my browser. So I'm hiding the browser. So you don't see just how many Twitter and YouTube and Facebook pages I have open. Alright, so that's more or less what you need to do for accessing the lab materials. Make sure you read the documentation in its entirety, and then fill out all of the answers on the Google Sheet and submit it to me. If you are confused about the process, remember you can watch this video again. Yeah, that's basically what my tabs look like too. It's just, I have like 30 La Milana 2 tabs open right now. Let's see here. If you have a question, you can ask me pretty much anything at this time. That's pretty much what this is. This has become a discussion session where you can just ask me anything. Show how to make a copy again. Absolutely. So, going back to the worksheet, you go File, Make a Copy. I also have 4 tabs open. Friends of mine complain to me because my computer will lag occasionally. It's because I have 30 gigs of RAM eaten up by Chrome. I mean, you just close the window and open again. It's fine here. To copy the worksheet, you go File, Make a Copy. It will say, what do you want to name it? You could just leave it the default name. You hit OK. And then it will open up a copy of that in a new window, which I've already done, which is right here. This will be your copy, which you may now edit. You may edit the copy. I cannot diagnose problems with your computer. I do need it as an Excel file because you don't need to open the Excel file, so you just need to upload it. You will need to figure out what function on your computer disables that download, and then disable that functionality. Yeah, because you do not need to download this file and then work on it. You just need to work on it in here, download it anywhere, and then upload it to me. Buffer solutions and ice charts are 163, so we will not be doing them in Chem 161. If I'm teaching Chem 163 in the fall, I might be. We haven't figured out if we're going to do classes online or not for summer or fall quarter. I'm assuming yes. I can't imagine that this COVID-19 pandemic is going to end by the end of summer. I don't actually remember what classes I'm teaching next year, so. Or if that's going to change now that the potential for us to do everything online exists. Not at our department. Our department is all the chemistry is in person. In the past, anyway. This quarter, it will almost certainly be online. Do you want to meow for everyone? Maya? Maya? Meow? My cat is saying hi. What type of graph do we want for part B? That's a good question. Let's look at the experimental section here. So, down here, in the documentation, I tell you to make a column for your graph table and then place a graph in the space below. So if you do that, the type of graph that I want you to use specifically is a scatter plot. In chemistry, always do scatter plots. Something to note is that if you put your data in first, so I don't know, 1, 3, 5, 7. I don't know why I did that, but that's okay. And then we'll just say 0.08, 0.20, 0.44, something like that. If you select your data and then you go to Insert Chart, it tries to plot it for you, which in most cases is great because it will know what it's doing. So it's put Y on the Y-axis and X on the X-axis. If you plot it in this order, the left chart will be your X-axis and the right chart will be your Y-axis. But when you do this, you have to change it to scatter. And there you go. So you're all set. There are other things that you want to do to this. So, for example, you're going to want to add a line of best fit. I describe where you do that in the documentation. Where do I put my equation? So there's that. Oh, label, use equation. There we go. So I do require that you have a trend line on your graph. The documentation will show you how to do that, but that's generally speaking what your graph should look like, something like this. And then if you make a mistake while plotting your data, you can always edit your data later. There you go. So, oops, maybe I put my data in backwards. There you go. You change it as you go, and it knows what to do. Other questions. Let's see here. Tina, I did get your email. I actually have that in a Word document right here to answer. I'll get to the non-lab questions in just a second. With chemistry being online for multiple quarters, will we still be receiving lab credits? My understanding is yes. These are still lab classes, and you will still get lab credit for them. However, I'm not the authority on that, unfortunately. Let's see here. When you say documentation, which are you talking about? I am talking about this right here, basically what you would call the procedure. So lab worksheet number 1, this guy right here. This is the lab documentation. Kind of like the instructions, I guess you could say. What other questions do we got here? Can we upload early and if possible look at it has mistake or not? I will not edit your lab assignment. You are submitting it to me to grade, so I cannot tell you if it is correct or not until I assess it. But I will be happy to answer questions about it. So if you hand me something and say, is this right? I will say, I don't know. Does it look right? But if you ask me a question about, I don't know if my graph came out correctly. I tried to do this. Does this sound okay? Then I would be able to answer that more thoroughly. Something to note. Oh, great. Now the other cat's meowing. Something to note is that if you upload your file to the Canvas website. Hold on, this is really distracting. Kresnik, shut up. I had to throw, like, a marker at him or something. If you upload this document to Canvas and then you realize, oh, crap, I made a mistake, I need to upload it again, there is a feature on Canvas that lets you upload it a second time. You can overwrite the old file. Just make sure you name it the same thing. What was I going to talk about? Oh, there is a very specific naming convention that I do want you to follow. It is written in this documentation. I'm not abusing my cats. The worst I actually do is spritz them with water. Down here at the very bottom, this right here, please make sure that you follow this. When you upload your file, make sure you are following the documentation form. Actually, this might not even be the right documentation format. Oh, that's not great. That is different than what I wanted you to do. Now that I'm thinking about that. Hold on just a second. It's always great when everything is all planned out and then you find a mistake. It's like, oh no. This documentation has what I want you to do. So I'm going to have to go back and edit that really quickly. Here you go. So this document right here that says how to upload completed worksheets to Canvas, this tells you the format that I want you to use. So last name, space, first name, dash, Chem 161, and then your section number. This is 121 because I just made one worksheet for everybody. I will go and fix the first Chem 161 documentation so that it has a description that is consistent with this one. I didn't realize that I had done that and then didn't go back and edit it. Let's see here. Since we have no real labs, will there be a later time that we can do them in person? No, unfortunately, we won't be able to do that. We are refunding your lab money. I am aware that that is a thing that is going on, but I don't know if that has been credited or when that will be credited. I'm not sure how long that takes. Does this class still count as lab credit? As far as I am aware, yes. We have certain problems in the textbook that we can do to prepare for quizzes. I do not assign specific problems from the text. My expectation is that you will have done the problems in the back of the textbook that are associated with the section that we are working on. So, for example, in the work that we did yesterday on dimensional analysis, you would do all of the problems in section 1.6, or as many as you want. They do get progressively harder, and I usually choose something around the middle. So I'm not going to ask you, like, Bob has 2 apples and gets 2 more, calculate the mass of the sun, or something stupidly difficult like that. But they will be representative problems similar to those in the textbook. Why is the Google Sheet you're showing us different from the one that's on Canvas? It should be the same one. It should be this one, right? There are quizzes and exams, yes. We have not had a quiz yet because we haven't finished a chapter. Quizzes will be based on chapters. Exams will just be at regular times. The first quiz will go up after Thursday, since we will have finished chapter 1. It doesn't look like anything like that for me. What does it say? Oh, does it look like this? You might be on the pages. You might be clicking on different pages. There are tabs at the bottom. So there are basically 5 different worksheets, and you'll have to change through them. Will we have to draw anything like Lewis dot structures on quizzes or exams? There will be no drawing of things in this class because there's no way I can assess that. The best way that you could do that, as far as I'm aware, is that you would draw something, take a picture of it, and email me. And that's way too many moving parts. Like your picture could get lost. That's inherently a privacy issue, so I don't want to do that. There are all sorts of problems with that. I can make you draw using your mouse, I guess, but, like, again, that's not great, so... No, there will not be drawing stuff in this class. Sorry, my tabs are hidden down here because I have all sorts of space constraints on my display here. Here you go. But yeah, here are the tabs. So make sure that you are clicking on these tabs. Don't just turn in a worksheet that only has page A done. Yeah, it's 5 tabs. It's a lot longer. No, I'm not just going to ask you about glassware and then we call it a day. I gotta have you guys do something during this quarantine, right? It's not all Final Fantasy VII and YouTube. Alright, somebody had a question about some of the problems that we've done. I'm going to get to that question, but in order to do that, I need to get my tablet, which I forgot to plug in. So I'll be right back, and then we'll go over that question. Okay, so hopefully this doesn't mess up all of my Windows stuff. Oops, I gotta actually get into the correct screen here. Alright, so a student asked earlier, and let me make sure that I'm drawing on the right layer. So here's my question from a student. And so the question is, when doing unit conversions, how many decimal places do you want us to use? So for example, if I was doing 1 kilogram equals, apparently my board is a little sideways here. 1 kilogram equals 2.2 pounds, or should I use this number? And universally, the number that I want you to use the one with more sig figs. So whenever you are given the option of conversion factors, please make sure that you're using the one that has more digits, because if you are using this in further calculations, here I'm going to be limited to 4 sig figs, but here I'm going to be limited to 2 sig figs. So this will affect the precision of your answer. And in order to retain as much precision as possible, use the one that has the most sig figs. The next question that was asked was, in these formulas, so for the temperature formula, oops, that's not a plus there. Are these numbers exact? And it turns out that the answer is yes, these are exact. The same is true for Celsius. However, in the Kelvin to Celsius formula, this number is inexact. And this is actually because those numbers that are used for Kelvin and Celsius are based on the absolute scale, whereas Fahrenheit and Celsius are based around an arbitrary point, which is water freezing and boiling. And so we can make Celsius and Fahrenheit exact values, but Kelvin is based off a real-world phenomenon and is thus inexact. Can I give an example of why I would use a piece of glassware? That is going to be specifically based on what the glassware's purpose is. So, for instance, beakers have very poor markings on them, but are big, so you can put stuff in them. They're convenient for that. Graduated cylinders are large and have finer markings, so you can measure out rough approximations of stuff. Pipettes have very small volumes, but are very, very precise, so that's great if you need a small amount. And then a burette can deliver any amount accurately, but is tedious to work with. Beyond that, I don't really want to tell you too much more, because that would just give away the answer to that question. Because you're just looking at number 1B, I think. Which is a good question, but I want you to think about that a little bit on your own when reading about the glassware and say, oh, okay, if I need to have something very precise, which piece of glassware should I use? If I just need an approximation, what should I use? That sort of thing. The rest of the class is Q&A time, so I'm going to answer questions until I don't see any questions pop up for a little bit. But I am more than happy to help you guys. I just can't tell you the answers because I want you to do some of the critical thinking on your own. Let me put this back on the screen. The online textbook uses this formula. I made a mistake. I might be writing on the wrong layer, so I gotta do this. So 5/9 times F minus 32. How do I want to go about doing this? I can tell you that this value is the same, as this, So 9 over 5 is the same as 1.8. So if I had this problem, that would be like I was dividing by 9/5 instead, which is the same as me saying I'm dividing by 1.8. So either formula is actually the same. So if you see 9/5 or 5/9 or 1.8 and then divided by 1.8, it's actually the exact same formula. So you can use any one that you want. When converting between other units, is there a chart we can look at? I can't find it in the textbook. That's a good question. Let me grab the textbook. I don't know if I'm going to be able to reach this far. There we go. I believe it's table 1. I wasn't 1.3. Okay. So table 1.6 has some common conversion factors. That is by no means an exhaustive list of conversion factors. This is on page 44 of the online text. It's in section 1.6. If you are wondering where that is on the online version. However, using Wolfram Alpha for any unit is probably a better and more accessible approach. So, like, if I give you a conversion that you aren't familiar with, or you can't find it in the textbook, like troy ounces to grams or something, Wolfram Alpha knows, because it has every unit known to man. In fact, I want to just kind of test that right now. Yeah, it actually knows what a smoot is. So I would feel pretty confident that it knows all of these things. Wolfram Alpha? Yeah, so it is right here. We did Wolfram Alpha yesterday, did we? Yeah. Is there a reason I rounded down? Only because that was the number I was given. Again, if you use a source and it says 2.204 and another says 2.205, I'm not going to be super picky about that. Because there are many, many different systems of rounding, and who knows what anyone is using for any of those. A smoot. Letter M. It is an MIT civil engineering professor. The smoot. One smoot is 5.583 feet, so their engineering professor is like 5'7". Yeah, it's my mic isn't the best. I have an $80 headset, so I'm actually surprised that it comes through as good as it does. Other questions? I know there were some issues with people trying to access the worksheet. If you are trying to write in the worksheet and you hit a button that says ask for permission, I'm just going to email you back with a link to this video. So just be mindful of that. How do you calculate percent error? There's the question. I forgot to answer that. I apologize. So let me do this. Now my board is transparent. Oh no. Boop. Boop. Let me get on the correct layer so I don't have to keep doing that. How do you calculate percent error? The way that you do percent error is not to write in white. because you can't see that. Experimental minus true divided by true times 100%. All right, so what does this mean? So the experimental value is the value you got in the experiment. Now I'm going to put experiment in quotes here because you didn't really do the experiment. You're just using the data that the experimenter got. True is the literature value. So, whatever value is acquired from a literature source or from other people, this is what's going to be considered the true value. And then the times 100% part is just to make it a percent. Now, if your percent error is a negative number, then what that means is that experimental, not greater than, was less than true. Okay? That's totally possible. Some versions of this formula, what you will see is you will see absolute value bars on this. I personally don't like having absolute value bars on my percent error. And the reason for that is because the sign tells you something. It tells you that the experimental value is lower than the true value. And if your value is positive, then what that means is that the experimental value is greater than the true value. See you later, Leah. Thanks for stopping by. So this formula up here is what you're going to use to calculate percent error. Now, I have chosen the data points. I actually went through and made up data that resembles the correct answers pretty closely. So you're going to get percent errors that are very close to the correct answers. Just because it's all artificial data, I just made it up. I didn't actually do this experiment. Although I have done it before, I just didn't have the data handy, so I had to make it up. And I can't go back to campus to get it. They are not allowing people on the campus. At least not for that long of a period of time. Any other questions? You know, I actually have a thing that I can click on where I can watch how many people are in here, and I can watch you all just leave me. Oh, goodness, there's 30 people. Never mind. All right, so just to go over the gist of the lab again, download the documentation and read what's going on in that assignment. Part A is just a bunch of questions about glassware and its effectiveness. Part B is using equipment to accurately determine sugar concentration in soda using density. If you have questions that pop up during the week, can we email you about it? Absolutely, yeah. So anything that you have a question about, you are always free to email me. If it's something I can specifically answer on the stream, I will reserve it for the stream, for the Wednesday stream. Otherwise, yeah, send me any questions you want. Put them on the discussion board. Nobody's really using the discussion board. It's because people are shy, I guess. That's okay. Does this count as a question? No. No, it does not. Maybe on Friday. You know, when I get tired and antsy and want questions. Will we be going over this lab next Wednesday? No, we'll be going over lab number 2 next week. This is the only opportunity we're going to have to go over lab number 1. Because it's just a description of what you're supposed to do. Any questions that you may have about the assignment, I feel like I can field individually. It's just me giving you the groundwork so that you know how to get started. I just don't want to give you a bunch of documents and then be like, have fun! And then have everybody lost, because that's no good. Once the quiz is posted, how long until it's due? I will generally give you at least a week to do it. So it'll be... I forgot how much time I made the quizzes. I want to say 45 minutes, but I don't remember. That's how long you have once you hit start. But the due date will be at least a week after we finish a chapter. Just because I don't know what your schedule is. The only thing that I have scheduled are the 2 exams and the final. Those have to be done on the day that is assigned. Remember, you get 2 attempts at everything on Canvas. Lab assignments, you only get 1 attempt because you're submitting something, so that's different. Yep, that's basically correct. I need to actually upload a quiz for another class. I said I was going to do that last night, and so I instead went to bed. So I'm an adult, and I do adult things. Like sleep. That's really all adults do, it turns out. Are Canvas quizzes like mastering chemistry or physics? No, it will accept your answer. Well, I mean, that depends. So a lot of the questions I ask you will be like multiple choice or fill in the blank or things like that. Spelling does count on those. I do require you to match the spelling correctly. For numerical problems, I accept a range of answers. With regards to exponential notation, I'm going to have to play around with it a bit to see like what ranges it will accept. I know in one of the old quiz formats, they wouldn't accept numbers less than 1 times 10 to the minus 5. I'm hoping that that is fixed on the new quiz version, but I don't know that for sure. So, to answer your question, kind of? I know, that's not much of an answer, unfortunately. Remember, you get 2 tries, so if you do it the first time and it tells you that it's marked wrong, and you aren't sure if that's a formatting issue, you can always write down your answers, that what you submitted. Send me an email and say, hey, did I get a point deducted for a format issue? And I can tell you a flat-out answer, yes or no, without going into much more detail. That sort of thing I'm happy to diagnose. I can't give you the answer, but if you aren't sure if Canvas is deducting points because you're putting in it in the wrong format, that I will help you with. I'm more than happy to address that. Each question on the lab is 1 point, but on the quizzes it may vary. So, like, I might have a 2-point question that has, like, 5 answers and you have to check the correct ones or whatever. But the number of points will vary. There is partial credit. So if you get half of a 3-point question right, you'll get 1.5. We'll be able to view your quizzes after you submit it. Actually, you will not. What will happen is you will submit it, a score will pop out, and it will tell you correct or incorrect, but it will not show you your answers. The reason for that is because I don't want you to just tell other people what the answers to the quiz are. Not that that will really help you on some questions, because it will be randomly generated anyway. But I basically have the assignment muted until everything has been turned in. Once it has been turned in, then I will hit a button and all of the answers will be available. And you'll be able to see how you did against the key. But currently, until the deadline, you will not be able to see any answers at all, just whether it was right or wrong. Yep, you got it. Other questions, comments, concerns? Happy to help. For the Horde. I'm assuming you're playing Horde, because that's the only correct answer. I had students in the past who would be like, hey, I play Alliance. Is that a problem? And I'd be like, see me after class. I don't play World of Warcraft anymore. I just don't have time for MMO. All right, last call for questions. I'm going to shut the stream down in about 2 minutes. So if you have anything that you want to ask me live, make sure you get those questions in. This is what I figured the lab lectures would go. I think it'd probably be about an hour is more than enough time. No, I don't fail Alliance players. Your performance in, or your choice of character class and faction in World of Warcraft does not affect your grade. That being said, I do have data that suggests that World of Warcraft players in my class traditionally do worse than people who don't. So please prove me wrong. It's because they spend all their time raiding. I mean, you got to get that item level up, right? That's more important than learning about the secrets of the universe. Or a future profession, or making the big bucks. I mean, I was in college when I was playing World of Warcraft, and also Final Fantasy 14, and before that 11. So I know about that all too well. More than I care to discuss. I am a former MMO junkie. And they're fun. They're great games. My priority shifted. All right, I think that's going to about do it. Looks like most people have checked out. We're down to 18 or so viewers. I'm going to put the title card back up. For tomorrow's lecture, we're going to finish Chapter 1. we're going to continue with Chapter 2. Make sure you have the Chapter 2 slides handy. There may be a point in the stream where I have to, like, break it because I don't know what's going to happen with how me closing that window works. I assume it'll go to a blank screen. I guess we'll find out. But I'll test it. All right, I'll see everybody later. If you have any more questions, I'll be able to answer them in the chat. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.